I had a purpose. I wanted to be one of the best basketball players to ever play. And anything else that was outside of that lane, I didn't have time for.
At what age did that goal become crystal clear?
I made that deal with myself at 13 years old.
At 13 years old?
13 years old. That's the deal I made.
You were crystal clear about it?
Crystal clear.
And where did inspiration come from?
The love of the game. The love of the game, the challenge. Like I would watch Magic play, I'd watch Michael play, and I would see them do these unbelievable things, and I'd say, you know, can I get to that level? I don't know, but let's find out. Let's find out. And so that curiosity to see where I could push this thing led me down that path, I think. You know, basketball for me was the most important thing. So everything I saw, whether it was TV shows, whether it was books I read, people I talked to, everything was done to try to learn how to become a better basketball player. Everything. And so when you have that point of view, then literally the world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
The world becomes your library to help you improve your craft, better your craft.
Yes, indeed.
So because you know what you want, the world's giving you exactly the information you need to become better at it.
Because you know what you're looking for.
You know, we had a really competitive household with my cousins and, you know, my father and my uncle and stuff. Like, we was very competitive, and, you know, you had to really work to just survive. Like, you know, that's with swimming, that's playing basketball, that's playing video games, whatever. I mean, it was a shit-talking family. Like, you know, when you lose, you not only lose, but you get embarrassed while you lose. You know what I mean? So I grew up in that kind of environment. So, you know, you had to work hard just to kind of keep your head above water, sort of thing. And I came into the NBA, I was like, man, these dudes really don't work that hard. You know, it was kind of an eye-opener. It was like,
but you started off young, like, you know, we the same age, we grew up, but like, you had a kill list at 13.
I did.
You know, they used to do these rankings. It was Street and Smith basketball rankings. And I was nowhere to be found because I was like 6'4", scrawny, like 160 pounds soaking wet. So I was like 57 on the list. And so I will look at 56, 55, all the way up to number 1, who these players are, what club teams they played for. So when we go on an AAU travel circuit, I got to hunt them down, right? And so that became my mission in high school, is to check off every other person, all those 56 other names, hunt them down and knock them down. That was it.
Get a target on them right off the bat.
That was it.
Very simple. That's unbelievable. Let me ask you this question. You say I'm one of the guys on that list ahead of you, and we play. What are you doing to get a feel? Is your mind like, are you asking, let me see if this guy's better than me in this side and this side and this side? Or are you just going saying, I'm going to kill this guy?
Well, it depends what year. So like at 13 years old, you know, I played the longer game because my game wasn't about being better than you at 13. It was to be better than you when, you know, the chips are really on the line. So when we played at 13, I would size you up and see what your strengths and weaknesses are. How do you approach the game? Are you silly about it? Are you goofy about it? Are you good at it just because you're bigger and stronger than everybody else? Right? Or is there actually thought and skill that you put into it? Right? And when I'd play to my weaknesses. I wouldn't play to my strengths. I played to my weaknesses. Because when you're playing summer basketball, there's so many games. So there's not a lot of skill work being done. So when are you going to get better? Right? When you're playing in competition situations, you're only playing to your strengths. Why? Because you want to win. Right? So what I would do, I was work on the things during those games that I was weak at. Left hand, pull-up jump shot, post game. Right? So I have a strategy. And so then fast forward to when I'm 17 and my game is completely well-rounded, and that player at 13 that I saw at 13 is still doing the same shit at 17, now you got a problem.
That's right.
You got a problem.
When you're going into the league, you're going with a lot of guys that were, you know, same age, you know, same class as you were going in.
Yeah.
Were you sizing those guys up the same exact way as you did in high school?
I did, but, you know, in the NBA, it was actually easier. Because what I found in the NBA is a lot of guys played for financial stability. And when they came to the NBA, they got that financial stability. So therefore, the passion and the work ethic and the obsessiveness was gone. So I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna be like taking candy from a baby. No wonder Mike wins all these fucking championships. It's like, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? And then you had the players that had that passion, but weren't willing to commit their entire lives to doing that, right? It's a choice, right? You have other things, you have family, you have all these other things that you have to do. The game can't really be your number one priority. And so I was just looking at that like, man, this is gonna be fun.
Well, what does losing feel like to you?
It's exciting.
Why is it exciting?
Because it means you have different ways to get better. There's certain things that you can figure out that you can take advantage of, right? Certain weaknesses that were exposed that you need to shore up, right? So it was exciting. I mean, it sucks to lose,
Right.
but at the same time, there are answers there if you just look at them.
Because you get the information from losing more than from winning, probably.
Yeah. I mean, the answers are there when you win too. You just have to look at them.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a constant process. It's exciting when you win. It's exciting when you lose because the process should be exactly the same, whether you win or you lose. As you go back and you look and you find things that you could have done better, you find things that you've done well that worked. Figure out how did they work, why did they work, how can you make them work again?
Yeah.
And but the hardest thing is to face that stuff. That's a really, really tough challenge.
You mean face it, you mean look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, this is how I showed up, or this is what happened. And
I'll give you an example. So Katie Lou Samuelson is one of the best college basketball players in the country. She plays at UConn. She's going to be a senior.
Right now.
Yeah. And she's from Huntington Beach, out here by us. And so she comes down and she works with some of my girls on the team, and she helps coach. And, they just had a really tough season last year where they lost to Notre Dame in the final.
That's right.
Really tough.
First loss in like years, right?
Yeah. And so I asked her, I said, have you watched the Notre Dame game? She was like, no. I said, well, why not? I said, I don't want to watch that. I said, I know you don't, but you're going to play Notre Dame this year, yeah? Yeah. What's the chances you see him again in the final? He goes, well, you probably see him again. I said, well, you can't show up and play them without knowing why you lost that one, right? So, the mistakes that you've made in that game, you have to do the hard stuff and watch that game and study that game to not make those mistakes over and over again just because you weren't brave enough to face it. So she came down to the office. I brought her down to the office and we sat down, we watched that game together.
Wow.
Right? And you gotta deal with it.
Face it.
You gotta deal with it. Face it, learn from it.
Wow, it must have been cringing for her to just be like, oh, replaying like we could have won, all these things.
That's exactly it, isn't it?
If I just did that one thing,
That's exactly
if I
right.
didn't get that foul, if I was scored that layup.
That's exactly right. You're looking and say, oh, there's the mismatch. Oh, there's the gap. And all those little things, and it sucks. But you don't want to have that feeling again, do you? Right? So you got to really study it, face it, and not to say you'll win the next time you face it, but at least you'll give yourself a better chance.
Yeah. And what was your routine and ritual like after every game? Would you watch almost every game over, or certain games?
All of them.
Every game you watch?
Every game.
The whole game back?
The whole game.
No way.
Yeah. To me, the mentality is a really simple one in the sense that the confidence comes from preparation. So when the game's on the line, I'm not asking myself to do something that I haven't done thousands of times before, right? So when I prepare, I know what I'm capable of doing, I know what I'm comfortable doing, and I know what I'm not comfortable doing, right? And so in those moments, if it looks like I'm ice cold or not nervous, it's because I've done it thousands of times before, and so it's one more time. Well, I mean, overall, the idea is a very simple one, and the Mamba mentality simply means trying to be the best version of yourself. That's what the mentality means. It means every day you're trying to become better. And it's a constant quest. It's an infinite quest. So starting at the age of 2, when I first started playing the game, and on and on and on, I always ask questions. I always try to get better every single day, learn more.
You were asking questions at 2?
Oh, dude, I was asking questions all the time. You'd be surprised. Like some people, like my kids at 2, could do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Right? At 2, I could dribble a basketball. I could shoot a basketball on the Nerf hoop at the house, and I would go to practice with my father. I would observe my father. I'd sit and watch games with him. And
Was he your first coach?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that. A lot of things I learned by being around the game. Mm-hmm. Right? So by the age of 6, I was already strategizing versus other 6-year-olds. The age of 6, I figured out 6-year-olds couldn't dribble with their left hand. And so I said, okay.
A lot of 12-year-olds can't dribble with their
Well,
left.
yeah, well, imagine 6. So like when I was playing these 6-year-old kids, I would make them dribble with their left because I knew they couldn't. And so they dribble off their foot, I'd pick it up, lay it up. Do it again, dribble off foot, pick it up, lay it up. So at 6 years old, I had 63 points. And but yeah, I mean, listen, I just constantly looked for things to learn from, and very observant. Well, I mean, here's why practice was important to me. Not from just the standpoint that I enjoyed playing. Like, I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed getting better. But as a leader of a team, it's also your responsibility to elevate the rest of the guys. And what people tend to get stuck on a lot is saying, okay, the way to make players better is to pass them the ball when they're open. That's a very trivial way to look at things. What you have to do is you have to get them emotionally to want to be better. You have to get them to an emotional space where they wake up every morning driven to be the best version of themselves, right? And how do you do that? And in practice, for me, it was a chance to drive them, to challenge them, right? And this is where you have to know your teammates, because if it's late, you just had a back-to-back and we had practice the next day and you show up and guys don't feel like going through the motions, don't feel like practicing. It's important to know each and every one of them individually, personally, because then you know what nerve to touch. Some guys, it's like, okay, come on, we can do this. That'll get them going. Other guys, no. You got to figure out what button to push. Powell was always Spain. If I tell them how they lost in a gold medal to us and how they're going to lose again, how I'm going to beat your ass in practice just like I beat you in a gold medal game, he'd hate that. He'd hate that. But that's what practice was. You have to drive them. You absolutely have to. And if practice is more intense and harder than a Game 7 will be, then a Game 7 will be easy. But if it's not, then that's when teams start folding and capitulating.
It's just piece by piece, and it's the consistency of the work, which I feel like a lot of parents are missing today because we're not teaching that to our kids. We tend to say like kids don't want to do the work, but in reality, it's when we're failing them because we're not leading them the right way and teaching them, how to fish, you know what I mean? And so like the consistency of work, Monday, get better. Tuesday, get better. Wednesday, get better, right? And you do that over a period of time, not like 1 month or 2 months. I mean, it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and then you can get to where you want to go. Basketball, it was different because I expected to win. Like I expected us to win championships. I expected us to win 5. Quite honestly, I expected us to win 8. And so when you have that vision in sports, it's a direct competition. Like I know how hard they're working. I know how hard we're working. I know what their strategy is. I know what ours is, So it's a little different. So when we went in the NBA, it was like, yeah, we expected to do that. But now we're going to come back and we're going to do it again, And so it's that constant like, all right, you're churning. You win one championship, I'm back in the gym the next day, working, getting ready for the next one.
I felt like I didn't feel good about myself if I wasn't doing everything I could to be the best version of myself. If I felt like I left anything on the table, it would eat away at me. I wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror. Right? So the reason why I can retire now and be completely comfortable about it, because I know that I've done everything I could to be the best basketball player I could be. And so that's where it comes from for me. You can't leave any stone unturned. I think the definition of greatness is to inspire the people next to you. I think that's what greatness is or should be. It's not something that lives and dies with one person. It's how can you inspire a person to then in turn inspire another person that then inspires another person. And that's how you create something that I think lasts forever. And I think that's our challenge as people, is to figure out how our story can impact others and motivate them in a way to create their own greatness.